What's up, tubers? Tio here, Simplistic Fishing, coming back at you tonight to do another lake breakdown for you. We are on a roll, rocking and rolling all our way through Texas. Just when we think it's done, we just keep getting new ones. This time, tonight, we're going to go jump out and look at a lake called Cisco Lake. This is out there by Cisco, Texas. I think it's about 55 miles south or west or something like that of Abilene. I don't know. We'll talk about it. I like this one. This one looks like it could be one of those little sneaky reservoirs that's probably holding some giants. Let's take a look. Like we always do, we always start on the Texas Park and Wildlife fishing page if we're breaking down a lake in Texas. And again, here we are breaking down Lake Cisco. This one is on Sandy Creek, 55 miles east of Abilene and 5 miles north of Cisco. Surface area acres are only 1,050 acres, so pretty small lake here. Maximum depth though is 70 foot, so you have a pretty deep water lake here. And if you look down at the descriptions, it even talks about this being a pretty windy lake as well. So really being able to take advantage of the wind and the deep water. When we look here at conservation pool 1520, fluctuations moderate, sometimes prone to long periods with dropping water levels. We're going to see that. We're going to pull the lake back to 2013. And when we do that, basically it's going to expose all of our offshore hotspots pretty much that are out there. So we really don't even need to look at the contours in this lake because the lake comes down so much that it really gives us the ability to look and see what was going on. So we'll look at the contours, but in a different way for this lake. Normal clarity is clear to slightly stained. Visibility can be up to 6 feet. So you're getting some pretty clear water in this lake as well, which is interesting that it fluctuates so much, or it has a tendency to fluctuate so much, but yet it stays pretty clear. Just seems kind of interesting to me. You'd think the water would be a little bit turbid having so much fluctuation. Moving on down, predominant fish species. Well, I guess first off, aquatic vegetation, there is none. I did see, you know, the willow bushes or the willow trees that are out there, the flooded willow trees, which are always money to fish around. So they have plenty of that here. And then Texas Park and Wildlife, we'll read down a little bit further. They've installed a bunch of cedar trees, fish attractors for you to fish around too. So we'll talk about those. Predominant fish species: largemouth bass, channel catfish, white crappie, and red ear sunfish. We look here at the lake records. It has largemouth bass, 14-pounder caught in 2011. Caught it on a bush hog. I think that's supposed to say brush hog. Man, that had to have been fun. Smallmouth bass, 2010. Don't know if there's still any smallmouth bass in here because they didn't really talk about it, but would be cool to catch one of those as well. So they don't show here, so my guess is they must have gone away. All right, let's look here at species. Largemouth bass is good, catfish is fair, crappie is fair, sunfish is good as well. It says here the steep-sided nature of Lake Cisco provides windy weather fishing opportunities. Willow trees in the upper end of the north arm and the sandy arm line the creek channel. That they're basically telling you those are just great places to fish. The reservoir is loaded with dead flooded brush, boat docks, and rocky bluffs. We're going to see that on Google Earth. And then here it says in 2016, Texas Park and Wildlife worked with local partner organizations to install brush piles made of recycled Christmas trees. That is awesome. And then another thing that I think you should pick up here is it says that this would be a great place to take children fishing for sunfish with minnows. It also talks about up here that red ear and red breast sunfish are underutilized at Lake Cisco. So the only thing I wanted to point out here is that if you're out here fishing, especially during the summer, you know, when the sunfish, or I call them bluegill, when the bluegill are out there, you know, spawning and things like that, you need to be using lures that mimic that basically are mimicking the sunfish or the red ear fish, the red ear or red breast sunfish, however you want to say it. Basically match the hatch, get your baits close to that color. They're going to be feeding on those. Those are great fish for the bass to feed on, and it's definitely something you could mimic and probably take full advantage of on this lake. All right, so let's go ahead and let's move on over to Google Earth and see what we found over there. Here we are taking a look at this thing from Google Earth, and like I was telling you earlier, It's very interesting. This thing, I guess being in West Texas, the fact that it can go just so extremely low really exposes a lot of the things on this lake. And so, of course, when we're looking at it here from 2023, if you look at here, like, how do they know there's a flat there? How do they know that's a good offshore spot? You know, and typically we would find that stuff from the contours. But on this one with the water, when we bring it down completely low, we can expose things like this rock that's out here, like some slabs that are way out here in the middle of the lake. It's just really, really interesting. I think you guys are going to be able to take full advantage of this one just based on what we're able to find. So let's look over here to the left side. I've got this thing broken down by a couple different things. First off, we've got channels and ponds. Here are your channels right here. You can see the green lines. Those are channels that we can actually see based on Google Earth. You know, we can see the channel that's there, and so we went ahead and marked it for you. We'll talk about that when we do the breakdown. We've also got cover and structure. Lots of different things out there. Structure as far as flats, some different things to look out there, humps as well. And then the cover, really, we've got brush that you can fish, a lot of brush. Those willow trees are definitely present on this lake. We've got a little bit of different rocky areas to take a look at as well. You know, this one's interesting. It says that it's very steep and things like that, and you'd think there'd just be rock everywhere. And there is quite a bit of rock, but there's also some areas where there's no rock at all, or specific areas where the rock is very, very dominant. So we'll talk about those as well as we go through all of this stuff. Again, we've got lots of different offshore things here. This one's going to be a little bit different. Instead of switching over to the Navionics mobile app, we're probably just going to hit it up from the Navionics web app and just kind of look at it really quick from a contour. But most of the things you see here that are marked as offshore, we'll be able to validate just from Google Earth because we can draw that water down so much. We've also got ramps and slabs. These are different types of ramps that are out there, as well as different types of slabs that are out there too. This one's interesting. It's got some slabs that are like way out in the way out in the middle of the water, basically. So very, very interesting. And then last but not least, these are all those Texas Park and Wildlife fish attractors that they talked about, the old Christmas trees. Those are going to be money. Those are going to be great places to fish as well in the summertime, in the wintertime. Pretty much all the time, because they're just basically really good brush piles. So you definitely want to go and check those out if you're out here on Lake Cisco. I think this to me, it just looks like one of those sleeper lakes, like, you know, like kind of like the Ivy Lake, but maybe Ivy's probably a little bit bigger than Cisco, but this one looks like it has a potential to crank out some giants. All right, so let's go ahead and select everything else back on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to my view, and I'm going to take this sidebar off so we can see the whole entire screen. So now we have the whole lake, and I want you to get a really good image of what this looks like right now, because this is 2023 or 12 of 2022 is when this shows this image was taken. So the water's down a little bit low. You can tell here that the water is down, but it's not down nearly as much as it's going to be here in just a second. So what we're going to do is pull this back, so you can see this whole thing, and we're going to go back to 2013. That seems to be my best image that I can find when the water was way, way down. So we go back to March of 2013. You can just tell the landscape just looks rough, dry. But now look at this. Remember those ramps that were just barely in the water? Now they're completely exposed. That offshore stuff, you're like, why was that an offshore? Now you can see why. Why do we call those flats? Now you can see everything. So that's what I was talking about. So let's go ahead and just start down here at the dam. And I'm going to do like I always do. I'm going to work my way up the east side, the northeast side, and then back down the southwest side till we get back to the dam. So as we start down here, first spot we got as an offshore spot is right here, really where all this rock is. Notice how the rock comes out and makes a good point. It's obviously in a really deep spot down here by the dam. Really that entire little area right in there is probably pretty good, but my guess is you're probably gonna have a higher percentage right there on that corner. As you move up, you do have these ramps. Now, you've heard me talk about these ramps before, especially the private ramps. Those can be really, really good, especially when they're not being used very much. Now this lake having so much rock on it kind of scattered around, it might not be as good of a lake for the ramps. You know, a lot of these ramps up here in North Texas, but these muddy, muddy bottoms, no rock at all. They love that hard bottom of that ramp, and they'll really be attracted to it. But definitely something to check out. If not, you can always just use these ramps as, you know, an emergency thing. You'll always know where the ramps are. As you're coming down here, there is some interesting stuff, like right here. That appears to be maybe like a little rock ledge or something like that. I just don't know. It's so hard to tell when I move this back and forth where everything is. Right there is where that ledge is. So that's really, really shallow, but it looks like you got some willow trees that grew up there as well. So I'm gonna drop this back to 2013, and we're gonna keep moving on up. Again, just the bank lines look really good. A lot of chunk rock and stuff like that. So you're gonna see, you know, we don't really mark all the rock, but we try to mark the key formations. Right here, we've got a nice little secondary point that comes out with some really good rock all around it. This looks like it could be a good little area for crank in, shaky head and stuff like that. And it's going back into this pocket, and this is a creek channel, so definitely a nice little point to go check out. You've got another one that's right here, and then another one that's over here on the side. And then as we move up here, you've got willow trees and stuff like that. I know it says brush, and you're like, man, there's no, why are you marking that? That's on land. I'll show you in a second. But over here, look at this nice little rock pile, isolated rock pile out here. You probably got that channel that comes down from here, swings down and comes really close to that rock pile. So that one right there, and that looks like juice come pre-spawn. So you definitely want to go look at that pre-spawn, post-spawn. All these little areas right here are probably going to be pretty good areas to go check out. Now that brush we were talking about, I'm going to move this up to 2023, and now you're going to be able to tell why we put this brush back there. And I can even draw it back a little bit more. You can see the brush is pretty dominant right in here, so it looks totally different. That stuff we were looking at earlier is just way out here in the middle of the lake. Now you can't even tell there's anything there. All right, so let's move this back to 2013. And let's keep moving up. Now, of course, you know, you got all this isolated stuff, and so you could do a lot of cranking on this lake with all these rocks everywhere. Some more willow trees that are gonna be back in here. Another great offshore spot right here. Now, of course, I think they installed those fish attractors in 2016, so you can't see it here, right? But you know that there's gonna be one there here in a couple of years. This is 2013, so 3 years prior to them putting that fish attractor there. But look at that nice juicy point that's right there. Love these secondary points, and love the fact that they come down off of this creek channel. So here is the creek channel, so you can see where we've got it marked for you there. You got a pretty good little bend right here. And right here it kind of swings out as well. And then you do have a lot of willow trees that are coming up here as well that you'll see if I move that water up to a little bit higher up. You'll start seeing it. There you go. In 2018, you start to see it, and the water's just going to continue to go up from 2018. So I'm going to bring this back to 2013 so we can keep our breakdown going. Let's zoom on down here. Now, obviously, fish and docks is going to be good on this lake too. You've got lots and lots of them to go check out. You know, I didn't really have any that really stood out at me. If they do, I would point them out. I guess if I'm looking at all these docks, I'm saying, man, which ones would I fish? I would say I would definitely fish this one over here on the corner. It's isolated. There's nothing by it. There's no other docks near it. I would definitely fish this one because it appears that this creek channel is going like this and swinging out a little bit and then maybe swinging back in. Plus, that's isolated. There's not any other docks that are by it. And then, of course, I would fish all of these. So basically starting here all the way down through here, just based on the fact that they're really close to that creek channel. All right, so let's keep moving on, and let's see what else we can find here. We've got some good offshore stuff here to take a look at. Some big boulders, little secondary point here, nice little point that comes out here. Nice little point that comes out here as well. Then you've got some willow trees that are up here too that you could fish around. And then just look at these docks. They have tons of nice big boulders that are underneath them. And this stuff that you're seeing right here, when the water's up, those docks are going to be setting right on top of it. So if I move this back up to say 2018, like we were looking at earlier, or 2019, now look, that where it looked like brush was on the land, now it's in the water. That offshore stuff you can't even tell is there. That dock has moved back significantly. So it's just hard to kind of visualize this one, but definitely know that you've got some really good big boulders and things like that that are going to be setting right underneath those docks. You got some brush here, another slab. Here's one of those slabs I was telling you about. It's way out here. It's kind of hidden. Just really good stuff. Now, when you get over here, you're going to notice something with these docks right here. Notice how long they are. That's telling you basically that that's really shallow stuff. So those probably aren't going to be ones that I would fish as much. The long ones, I would stick more to the shorter ones. So find the walkways that are a little bit shorter, and those are going to be your deeper docks that are going to be probably a little bit more effective for you. All right, so let's keep moving up. We've got offshore spot here. This point looks really juicy. I like that. I like the big flat that's there. Another good little offshore spot right there where that cut-in is there. You got some willow trees back here, another slab that's here. Pretty good points that are over here too. If you check these out, these look beautiful. We've got more brush that's back in here. You got a ramp that's back there too. Now we get in here, this looks really interesting. I was looking at this earlier from the satellite. If you zoom in here, you can tell there are, well, first off, you've got the Texas Park and Wildlife Fish Attractor here. You've got this random boat ramp that's here, a slab. You've also got a little bit of a ledge created here that you can see. You've got a little bit of rock. You can see where we've marked these as offshore. And then over here, you've got a slab too that's out here. And then on top of all that, you've also got some rock fence rows that are right here and right here. And if I zoom this, I'm going to pull this water up so I can show you what all this looks like because it's craziness. And then over here too, you've got more rock out here. So you pretty much got this flat and then boom, you get these little rock ledges. Another ramp here, another ramp or slab here. Then of course, all this rock that's right here. Now, let's look at this when the water goes up. We'll go 2019. All that stuff we were just looking at, that rock pile that was there, that appeared to be a dock or something that was there, that may still even be there. That slab's way out here, fish attractor's way out here, that little rock ledge we saw, and that ramp is way out here. So you're gonna wanna fish basically further off the bank line here to be able to take advantage of some of this stuff. All right, so let's go back to 2013 and let's keep moving up here. Just some more rock we talked about. We've got another offshore spots here. These are basically just good little points. Nice little offshore spot here where you've got a little creek channel that comes in here and swings around and really produces a good spot for you right there to take a look at. You got some more rock that's over here too. And then moving up here, really, you know, we've got the offshore spot here because of the pile of rocks, but it's really this whole entire thing, right? Take a look at the entire thing right here. And then notice where we put the offshore spots here. It looks, you know, you're like, what? That's not offshore. Yes, it is offshore because when the water is normal, now you're pulling off away from this stuff, right? You're fishing out here. You're fishing out here. This stuff here that looked like, you know, it was right on bank. It's not on the bank anymore. It's a little bit further off. All this stuff looks really, really good. This point looks pretty juicy, and that's even with the water down. That's still looking pretty good there. All right, so let's go back to 2013. Let's go on down and see what else we got over here. Basically back here, you know, we're getting pretty shallow, but here's your creek channel. So we've got the creek channel marked for you. You may want to go back in here and check this stuff out in the springtime. I'm not sure how hairy it gets back here, but it definitely looks like a nice, huge flat that's back there with a nice channel right in the middle of it. I'd stick to the channel and just fish around the corners and the bends and the channels and things like that and just see what you can find. You know, typically if you're seeing this more I guess more in East Texas, you're going to find a lot of hydrilla and stuff like that's back here, but I don't see any type of aquatic vegetation in this lake, so that might be a total bust. Just don't know, wouldn't know without being able to go up and fish it. Now up here, you do have some pretty good turns here. This hump's right on a turn. This bend is all around that offshore stuff that we talked about here, but on the flip side of that, you always get the flat. So here's the flat that's over here. You got some pretty good flats that you could fish right through here as well. Then moving down, it's just an interesting little offshore spot. Notice that little indention right there. Of course, you got the point, but that indention too, those things can be money. Here's a little ditch that comes in that you can fish the little ditch out here. You got another Texas Park and Wildlife Fish Attractor. Some more flats that are back here. You can look, this looks like a really good spawning area right in there. And then also moving down through here, we've got Texas Park and Wildlife Fish Attractors, a couple more. You can see several different offshore spots. We're really just knocking on those bends, right? Bend, flats around the bends, flats, and more offshore stuff as that creek channel starts to move out. Then moving over here, I did mark some rock here for you guys because it just looked different than everything else around us. You come here and, you know, you got the bank line, it's got some scattered rock and stuff like that, but very heavy right in here around these docks. So again, let's pull this up, 2019. And those docks actually stayed right there. They actually didn't move too much at all. Interesting. They went a little bit further out, but that rock is right on the inside of those docks. That makes those docks pretty good looking docks to fish. I would definitely spend some time there to see what I could find. All right, we're gonna go back to 2013. Another good little offshore spot here. This is basically just where those cut-ins are. Those can be great little spots. This looks very interesting. It's like a little mini point. You can see it right here. Again, if I move the water up, right, the water's gonna come up here and it's gonna look totally different. Moving down through here, didn't see too much. You've got some like little rock ledges like right in here. Maybe could possibly be good, but that might not just be anything at all. You do have a fish attractor that's there, kind of in a weird spot. And then moving over here off this ramp, I'll show you guys where I'm at now. We're moving our way back, but off of this ramp that we saw that was pretty much under the water, right here is a giant flat, just right out there, big, nice main lake point with a giant flat on it. You may want to check that out as well. Moving down, some good offshore things again. You know, not a lot of laydowns and stuff like on this lake. It's more of an offshore kind of, you know, picking your spots type of lake. I can't even explain it, but it does remind me a lot of Ivy. We've got offshore here. We've got slabs here, got more flats here with a nice little drop off at the end. I like this little secondary point. Moving down here, we've got a little pond that's back here. Some more fish attractors right here off the edge of this little secondary point. Another secondary point here. Fish attractors right there by this little ditch or something like that. That could be a primo spot right there, as well as here. And then if you move down, you've got right here a nice little offshore spot too. And then here's that creek channel that comes in where you've got your flats back here and a slab. I really like this spot right in here, and I really like that spot right in there, and that one. Actually, I liked all these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I was fishing this little thing, that's definitely the way that I would work it. All right, so let's keep moving up here, see what else we can see. Now, obviously, we've got some type of a creek channel coming through here. We're gonna guess, right? It's gotta come through here somewhere. And so if you're just looking at the bank line and you look up here, you're like, okay, that's not the creek channel because that's a lot flatter. So let's flip over to the other side. Well, boom, when you flip over to the other side, boom, you can tell there's a creek channel somewhere through here just based on the way that the rock is. This looks a lot deeper right in here. And then you have a nice little point that's right here too. Good little flat that's on the side of that point. Moving over here, just more offshore stuff, right? More offshore points to go take a look at. This is an interesting area because this is really, it's really hidden in here, but it's a transition. Of course, it's a transition from the same thing back to the same thing again, but you get this blank spot right here, and those can be really good spots if you can find that little transition spot. So definitely look at that. Moving over here, you've got really good rocks like all out in here. I mean, all this stuff's gonna be juicy. We try to just kind of point out the key things. So you're looking for things that are a little bit different. Nice little point here. There's a little point there as well, and there's one over here on the side. These sides of these dams can always be really, really productive. But you can even go out here and just check out these rocks that are out here too, right? They're gonna be pretty well submerged when that water's up. So that covers us for everything on Cisco Lake. Again, like I said, the offshore stuff, instead of switching over and showing you Navionics mobile app, it's probably not gonna do any good because you're gonna be like, well, you know, why is that there? Well, now you can see here from Google Earth imaging with it being so low, we don't have to look at that. But let's go ahead and just do one quick look. Let's go out to the web app for Navionics and just do one quick look to see what else we can find from an offshore standpoint. Okay, so here we are. We're out here on web app Navionics. We're not on the mobile phone this time. And of course, all these spots we're going to talk about here, we've already got them marked on the Google Earth side. You guys saw them. But let's go ahead and just pull up the contours here. This one gets a little crazy. You can see how deep this lake is, 65 foot down here. Pretty good for a little small lake like this. But remember those spots we marked? We had a little offshore spot that was right here. This is the creek channel coming through here. I talked to you about fishing those areas where that creek channel was. It looks like the creek channel is actually more on this side instead of by those docks. So maybe take those docks out that I talked about fishing and maybe just fish that dock right there. These couple docks here. Obviously that one there, I told you the isolated one would be a good one. This one's gonna be a good one. And then these two up here on this side where it starts to get a little bit deeper, those two are gonna be pretty decent too. Then moving up, of course, you got a little point there. Let's move on up here, see what else we can find. Pretty good docks here, right? Just looking at that, I don't see anything from a contour perspective that really bounces out at me. Maybe, you know, put one right here, put one right here around these points. And I think we also had one right here on this point. This would be a pretty good point leading back into these two areas. Coming up here, don't see any humps out here or anything like that. Do have a pretty good little point here. We did mark that one for you guys, so you'll have that one out there. Again, another little point here, another one right here, nice tapering point on this side. kind of move you around, show you where I'm at, these 2 points right here. Plus you have a little pinch point here, right? So you have some type of a river channel or something coming through here, and these 2 points are kind of creating that pinch point. There's another really juicy looking point right here. Look at the nice flat top on this one. And then of course this one has that fish attractor that's out there. It looks like there's a little hazard out there, so be careful as you're going up in there. And then of course, you know, as we're doing this, the docks are going to play a role in this thing, especially when you find the deeper ones. You got some deeper docks that are starting to come in, like right in here, those couple right in there. You got a bunch that are right here around this little turn. So definitely check those out. Here's that flat that we were telling you about that we marked. And then you also have an offshore spot out here because this is a big, long, extended point that comes out there here as well. You got another nice little rounded point that's right here. This little point right here can be good too. So you have some pretty interesting stuff that's back in here. Even when you get back in here, you have a 17-foot drop right here. That's very interesting because, you know, I thought that was going to be really, really shallow, and it probably is. And then again, Navionics might be lying to you, man. If it's 20 foot right here, I can't imagine that that would be, you know, so shallow that you can't get back there. So that creek channel we talked about could definitely be in play. Let's move down here, see what else we can find on this side. Just another point that's right there. Moving down, I don't see anything too crazy. Keeps talking about emergent vegetation, but it must be talking about those willow bushes. But again, just looking here where you find these little steep spots, you'll definitely want to look at those. Right there is going to be really good. And we've got these marked for you as well, but you can see them right here. Some really good spots. There's probably a lot of good spots right back in here we can't see from a contour perspective, but good news is we saw it from Google Earth, so we already marked all of it because we were able to physically see it instead of just having to rely on these contours. So then moving here, you can remember that point that we marked off that was right in this area. That's going to be a really good point there too. It just sets up perfect with everything kind of coming into it and kind of coming around it. Nice, good little shallow point that's right there. Let's move back in here to this backside. I don't see too much there that really catches my eye. Obviously big breaks there. Maybe right in here. You could check like right in there. We may even put a spot there. I think we did. Then you got there's nothing really there. Then you got this nice little rounded point here. Pretty kind of flat, you know, a little bit flat right there, but then breaks very heavily. So fishing in here, we already marked all these little areas right in here. We get down a little bit further. Not sure why that turned pink on me. That's pretty cool. But as we moved out here, not seeing too much from offshore stuff. Just focusing where those really sharp contours are. You got a nice little point that comes out right in here too you can look at. And then here's that stuff off to the side. So again, not too much from a Navionics standpoint as far as the contours go, but definitely something you want to go check out. This lake has tons of offshore opportunities on it. Again, it looks like one of those, just maybe one of those little hidden gems that we might want to go check out. So make sure to go out and check out our website, simplisticfishing.com. We've got all these waypoints out there for you, plus 180 other lakes to go take a look at. We've got them across several different states. Go check them out, simplisticfishing.com. It will change the way you fish, I promise you that. And until next time, guys, I hope